I'm the new media manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier online community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Relational Databases for the Business Analyst. Today's featured speaker is Mark Kurtz, Senior Systems Consultant with Quest Software. The webinar will last approximately 60 minutes, including the Q&A session. So make sure you keep your questions, or get your questions in advance using the question feature on the webinar software. And I'd like to say thank you to Quest Software for sponsoring this event. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mark to get us started. Are you ready?
All right, thank you. Yep, thank you, Ben.
No problem.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll learn something today if you're not careful. So, as Ben said, I'm Mark Kurtz. I am a Quest employee. And we're going to go through this presentation and see where we end up. Ask questions. I will get to those at the end, but please make sure you queue them up for us. Okay, agenda. These are the things we're going to talk about today. The RDBMS and its role in the enterprise, data discovery and finding it faster, a SQL overview and procedural languages found in the RDBMS, best practices in SQL, and understanding SQL performance at a high level. Not really going to dig down into all the tuning formats, but just talk about how we can help you out. ETL and how it's used in the enterprise today. OLTP versus decision support systems. You probably have a combination of those. You're doing online sales, and then you have to generate reports on that. And how to extract data from the database in an easy-to-understand format. Like I said, at the end, we'll have a Q&A period. So we're going to keep this kind of high level at the beginning here and answer some questions. What is an RDBMS and what's its role in the enterprise? RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. A lot of words there. Most people just say, oh, it's the database. And that's fine, because that's what it is. But it's a relational database structure. RDBMS data is stored in tables, which hopefully we're all familiar with. What's the table name? We've got to pull the data out. Where do we find it? Tables consist of rows and columns. Each row consists of one or more columns. So think of it, if you're looking in Excel at a spreadsheet, you get rows and columns. That's a table, basically. Each column contains data values for a row in that table. And in the most popular database systems are Microsoft SQL Server, IBM's DB2, Oracle, Sybase, and MySQL. There's a few more out there, some smaller ones, some proprietary type of stuff. It's all kind of the same idea. It's just we're focusing on the more popular ones, the ones that, if you mention Oracle, everybody knows what Oracle is, or DB2. So, what is the role in the enterprise? The role of a database in the enterprise is to allow the business to store information about its customers, transactions, inventory, manufacturing processes, etc. Your businesses are all different, but you're selling widgets, you're processing claims, you're manufacturing stuff, you're doing whatever, point of sale activity for stores. All that information gets stored in a database somewhere. And the database is what allows you to do all that and gather this information. Once you have that data, it becomes the basis for all your business activity. If you're selling widgets, you want to know how many widgets you sold yesterday, today, last week, last month. If you're processing claims, how many claims did we process? How much money did we pay out? If we're manufacturing, how many parts did we make? What's our cost for all these parts, et cetera, et cetera. So we're gathering all that data. The data can then be reported on, managed, updated as new information becomes available. The RDBMS is the heart of the business. All this data is stored in a database. Now it's up to you as a data analyst to figure out what this means, how you get it out. That's what your bosses are asking you is, I need to know, I need the sales figures for the past quarter. Okay, how do we get that out? Well, all of that is stored in the relational database. So how do we store this data? So RDBMS store the data in a collection of tables, which might be related by common fields or columns. You think of my little spreadsheet example, you got rows and columns, and but in a database they're in tables. So I have my OW orders table here that has order ID, customer ID, order date. That data is related to or used by other fields or other tables. So OW order lines has an order ID. So if I place an order and it's for multiple line items, that information can be stored in the OW order lines table. And you see in OW order lines, there's a part ID. Well, that is related to the OW parts table because our customer ordered some parts. And on the right side, you have the customers. Well, who is the customer? So individually, all these tables will stand on their own. OW customers, I have all my customer data. OW orders, I have all my order data, with order lines and parts. But they need to be related so that we can start making sense out of this. And that's where the heart of the business comes in. We're gathering all this data. Let's join it together. That's what these little lines indicate on the screen. These tables are all related. So then we can start working on pulling this out. So how do we get the data out? Well, the RDBMS provides relational operators to manipulate the data stored in the tables. Most RDBMS use SQL as a database query language, SQL or SQL, however you want to word it. So what does that mean, provide operators? Well, there is a way, a language, SQL, SQL, whatever you want to call it, that you can go in and you can write. You see on the right-hand side is an example. We're going to select data, these lines, order ID, line, custom name, from the tables that we stored it in. And we're going to join it on different fields, and we're going to manipulate it and do whatever so that we can get the data out for you. Now, vendors may have procedural languages that enhance the SQL to make application development easier and quicker. SQL Server has something called T-SQL. You can write procedures and functions and packages. Oracle has PL-SQL in procedural language SQL. You can write all this information. One of the nice things about these procedure languages is they're stored in the database, and they're easy to access, and they make it a little bit faster to run. Okay, so some best practices in using SQL. The best way to improve the performance and simplicity of database code is to use a single, elegant SQL statement instead of PL-SQL or multiple SQL statements. Using elegant SQL instead of PL-SQL can frequently increase performance 10 to 100 times. Great. On the previous screen, I just told you, well, PL-SQL is provided, or procedural languages are provided by the vendors. And then I turn around and tell you, well, the best way is to write elegant SQL statements. Both are true. If you could write just one SQL statement and do it properly, it's probably the most efficient way to do it from a pure database point of view. But we can't always do that. And so that's where we have the procedural languages, so we can codify some of the stuff, make the code reusable. But all of this is tunable. We can tune the PL-SQL, we can tune the SQL statements, or we can tune the procedure languages, if you will. Then on the right side it says, tuning the database architecture will help ensure the best performance of the RDBMS engine. But if you don't tune the SQL, then you're still limited in the amount of performance improvements that can be made. The best performing database is one that has no users in it. Okay? As soon as the users start accessing it and running their SQL statements, then we start running into performance issues. So I can tune this database and have it screaming, but if I can't get to the SQL and get it tuned properly, then all my performance tuning on the database is for naught. So how do we do this? So some best practices in SQL and understand SQL performance at a high level. So on the left side, you see a graph or a weird-looking diagram. This is what's called an explain plan. This is the path that the database is going to use for this particular query. It starts in step 1, and goes to step 2, and then step 3. And it can tend to jump around a little bit to do this. So how can we help this out? How can we help the query perform better? We do that by using appropriate joins. Use appropriate where clauses. We need to make sure that when we're going after the data, we tell the database where it is and how we want to go after it. Just putting in select star from these tables is not the most efficient way to do it. It'll get you data, don't get me wrong, but it's not the most efficient way to do it. So use appropriate unions and union all clauses, distinct clauses. You know, if you're looking just for one piece of data, you can put a distinct on it. Review the explain plans if available. That's what you see on the left-hand side. How is this going on? You know, what's it doing out here? And then consider the use of views and temp tables. Views are very handy if you're pulling data from multiple sources. You can create a view that is it's a logical representation of all the data. So I don't actually have to hit each table. The view will do that, and it'll kind of preload some of this stuff for me, if you will. And so when I hit that view, it already knows where to find the data. So they can be very helpful. I'm sure a lot of you use them, and you know, you can see a benefit to them. Okay, so we can get the data in, you know, write the queries, use views, and all that. But then we talk about ETL, data warehousing type of stuff. So the extract, transform, and load process, the ETL, involves extracting data from the source systems. You can see on the right-hand side of my diagram, a source system can be just about anything. You could have an application that runs on the web, and you're pulling transactions and queries off of the web. Existing systems, you may have stuff in-house. You're processing claims, you're processing sales. You know, again, how many widgets are we selling, all that type of stuff. And external partners and customers. You may get data feeds from a vendor of yours. Okay, hey, we sold 500 widgets today. All this information is from disparate sources. It gets pulled in and entered into a database. Well, it can sometimes be hard to read. You know, the source data is generally application specific, may not be conducive to corporate reporting and forecasting. Again, it can come from multiple sources. So the ETL process is usually a batch job that runs overnight. You can go out, extract the data from all these different sources, and clean it up. It transforms this. You may have a lot of extraneous data coming from your existing system that, whilst it's important for reporting for the ETL part, the data warehousing, it may not be important for forecasting sales, reporting on sales, and manufacturing and all that. So the ETL process can look at all these sources, strip it all down, say, okay, I need this from here, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and put it into a data warehouse that actually makes business sense for us. Okay, so by using the ETL process, the data has been cleaned up, consolidated, duplicates removed, errant data identified, and organized into a usable format for reporting and forecasting. A lot of people I talk to run into issues with the data, you know, errant data. We got stuff out here that's, you know, it's garbage data, whatever you want to call it. Now, how do we clean that up? We don't know what to do with it. Using the ETL process, you can build in, if you find a problem with the data, kick it out, you generate a report, you kick it back to wherever it came from, et cetera, et cetera. But now, once the data has been moved, you can start generating reports and analyzing the data. So now, on the right-hand side is a little sample report where we can come in and we can pull this data from different sources. I have a database, so the name of the customer, the order ID, the customer ID, you know, all this information is out here and available to me. What did they sell? What did they buy, et cetera. Okay. So how do we get all that data in so that we can do the ETL process and start moving this around and organizing it? So you have a couple different ways. OLTP, your online transaction processing. This is the processing of real-time transactions. Again, you're selling widgets, receiving payments, processing claims, you're taking orders over the phone, You ever call, like 1-800-Flowers and place an order? Well, that's an online transaction because they're sitting there, they're typing it in. Maybe you ordered flowers over the web. It's the same process. They're selling something. All this data is coming in here. Someone buys widgets, you sell stuff, whatever it is. You're processing a claim. You're going to pay these providers, etc. You're registering students. You're at a school. All this happens online. It's kind of real-time processing. So we have all this, and then we have decision support systems to report on the data that the OLTP and the ETL processes have gathered and cleansed. So this is where you get into the sales and management reports and invoicing applications and marketing campaigns. So when your boss comes up and says, okay, how many students did we register in the past week? Well, this data has been scrubbed and cleaned and organized, and so they can come into this data warehouse, the decision support system, and you can start writing those queries. Say, okay, new student count, and you give it date parameters. You can run a query and go out and find that data. Sales reports, how many widgets did we sell? Marketing campaigns. Maybe you're trying to figure out, how many widgets we're selling here, but we seem to be down in a region. Well, should we start a marketing campaign and focus on that region? Maybe we have a new enhanced widget coming out. Maybe we're trying to get more customers, more students, whatever. You can use this information and analyze it, find your weak spots and say, okay, let's focus over here. Let's create a sales blast, marketing blast, and the nice part about that is you can track this and go through the whole process. So if you do a new marketing blast and you get a whole bunch of new customers, well, those customers came in through a OLTP system, all that data is put in, maybe come from a third-party vendor. You go through the ETL process, you strip it back out, put it in data warehouse, then you can go back, you can use your decision support systems. Say, okay, we ran this campaign 101, what kind of hits did we get from it? So this all goes back to the RDBMS being the heart of the business. All this data has to be stored somewhere, and it's stored in the database. So now comes the fun part. How do we extract the data from the database in an easy-to-use and understand format? How do you get all this captured, cleansed, transformed data out of the RDBMS and into a usable format? How do I see the data and generate reports? So the native way to do this is to use SQL statements. This can be done from a command window connected to the database. So back in the olden days, that's the only way we had to do it. You sat down in front of a green screen, little window came up, and you start typing the stuff in. Limitations is you have to understand the SQL to be able to write it. The output format does not look very nice. There's a lot of pounding on the keyboard to get the SQL written. We've advanced a lot, and we don't necessarily need to do these steps anymore. You can. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this. It's just not probably the most efficient way to do this. So the easier way to report on this data is to use a tool designed for this purpose. If you own a third-party application like Oracle Apps, Informatica, PeopleSoft, whatever you may have out there, it will have reporting tools built into them. Doesn't necessarily mean they're easy to use. Several of you have probably seen my little Swiss Army knife there, like, oh geez, which tool do I use and how do I go about finding this data? The vendor gives us this thing, but a lot of it is in a proprietary format that is restrictive. You can go after the data if it looks like this and if the data is over here. But what if we want to do some more analytics on the data, come up with some of our own formulas and stuff like that? A lot of times the third-party tools aren't quite that flexible for reporting functionalities. So what if your query and reporting solution could automate these tasks and processes? So the productivity gains here. So we can access any database. The tool set here is coming from Quest, but we have the ability to connect to any relational database. So we talked about the 5 biggies there. DB2, Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, and Sybase. But a lot of you have, sitting on your desktop, Excel spreadsheets, Access databases, all this type of stuff. We can get to any of that type of data. Investigation, browse and query across DBMSs. So this is how you can use this tool. I could go and join an Access database to an Oracle database. I could take a DB2 database and compare it and join it to an Excel spreadsheet if I needed to. And then delivery. We provide reports and information to support business requirements. So these are all the kind of things that as a data analyst, we'll back up just a little bit, you have all this data coming into this database, this RDBMS. And it's been cleaned and organized, and now we need to generate reports. So as a data analyst, how do we go about doing this? I may know some of those table names out there. So do I whip out my Swiss Army knife and go from there? Or do we use a tool designed for this? And so this may still be a Swiss Army knife, but it's going to be a little smoother for you to use. So the solution, the Toad solution for analysts, is called Toad for Data Analyst. It supports business and IT objectives by providing data professionals with unprecedented data access, discovery, and delivery. So thank you, marketing, because that's a very powerful line there. But what does that mean? So this gives you access to connections to databases using the same workflow on any particular database. We don't really care what database you're on. It's just going to be out there, and you can get to it. You can write the SQL queries. You can view the object relationships, compare and sync data. You can create the customized reports out here. You can do all this type of work inside this toolkit. Productivity, save time on projects with unique automation and scheduling functionality. Okay. So what this allows me to do is I can sit here and I can access a database. We don't care what kind of database it is. It's up to you. You have your business requirements. Then we start the investigative work. We're writing SQL queries. We're viewing the relationships. We have all this information. Great. I have a query. I've run it. I have my data. How do we deliver this? We can create custom reports. We can export the data into Excel. And when we talked to the data analyst folks, and they said, what do you do with this data when you get it? And everybody said, oh, we put it in Excel. Okay. So that's just naturally built into the toolkit. And then we save time because now you're not sitting here, you're not pounding on the keyboard. You're simply dragging, dropping, clicking on a button, and pulling this up. So we are the only solution available built specifically for data professionals for querying and reporting on data from any source. Only solution to compare data between databases and RDBMS platforms. What that means is I talked to a lot of data analysts, and they're trying to figure out data discrepancies. We have a database A and we have a database B. It's supposed to be the same. They're different formats. Could be the same format even. But we have these two databases, and there's something messed up with the data. And I need to be able to go in, look at this data, compare it, find discrepancies, then decide what I want to do with this data set. We're the only solution that can do that across database platforms. So I could have a DB2 database and an Oracle database, data discrepancies, create a join, boom, I can show you the data set and show you the discrepancies between them. Okay, so the Toad for Data Analyst features. So I'm going to talk about the right side window for just a minute. Because on here we have, it says select an entry point. Hopefully you can see this. I know that image may be a little small. But how do you want to go after this data? Understand with an ER diagrammer or a database browser. I just need to go in and look around at the database and see what's out there. There's a query builder. Once I start looking at my tables, I can use this to build a query. But there's also a SQL editor. So you may have your own queries. You may be comfortable with writing your own queries. We're not going to take that away from you. But you may also have queries you've saved out on your desktop and network, whatever. Once you connect to the database, you can bring those queries in. So we're going to build a query. You're going to execute it, excuse me, and then you're going to generate a report. The default reporting tool inside of our tool is Excel, because that's what the data analyst told us they needed, or what they did. What do you do with the data? Put it in Excel. But there's also a report writer, because then they came back and said, well, yeah, we put it in Excel, but it might be nice once in a while to create an HTML report, a PDF report, things like that. So there's a report writer out there. And then publish an email report. So I generate the spreadsheet, I need to email it to my boss, to the sales organization. You can automate that whole process. That's what the bottom part says. Automate, build the job stream, automate it, schedule it, et cetera, et cetera. So, back on the left side, project management. Organize data-driven tasks and collaborate with team members using common techniques. So I do all this work, and I don't necessarily work in a silo. I have teammates out there, and I'm working on this portion of the project. Someone else is working on another group. Well, we can put that into a project. Inside of the Toad family tools, I always define a project as a manila folder on your desktop. I can put queries in there, tables, diagrams, whatever's in there. Then I can share these projects with the rest of the team. Maybe I'm working on a project and I have to go out of town for a couple of days. Well, I can just hand them this project file and everybody can just continue working. Data assembly. Streamline the process of gathering data from different sources and platforms. So once I connect, you can see in the lower right-hand corner, it's a query builder type of ER diagram type of window. I can pull in tables from different data sources and start joining them and start building queries. Script development. Create template scripts can be used and reused to speed reporting. This kind of goes back to some of the automation stuff. I build a script once, I save it, maybe I put it in a project for future or for team use, whatever, but I can automate this and just reuse this and reuse this and reuse this. I need to run my weekly reports. Maybe it's quarterly, and so I can just schedule it and reuse this stuff. The data comparison, identify and validate differences through data comparison. I talked a little bit about that already. We can connect to two different data sources and do a comparison between them. And then the report management, automate report design, management, and distribution. Again, I go through, I build my queries, I get the data that I want it in a spreadsheet, I want it in a HTML report, PDF, whatever. Once I have that built, we can automate that whole process for you. So now your boss, every Friday morning when he comes in, he can have the weekly sales report sitting in a PDF or a spreadsheet, whatever, in his inbox, in his mailbox, because you've done the work, you've automated it, and it's been scheduled. So overall value. According to the University of Alaska, much of the excitement for the tool stems from the fact that all users, regardless of experience with SQL, can now write well-formed queries as well as connect to multiple database instances, easily view and understand data, share queries and reports, and export to Excel. So the part I like about this comment here is regardless of experience with SQL. What we're trying to do is give you a common tool that anybody can use so you can look at the data. How the data gets in there, is it OLTP, you're selling stuff, you're processing claim, whatever. The data needs to get into the database, which is the heart of the business. Okay, great, we got all this. How do we get it out? How do we report on it? And that's your folks' job. You're the data analyst, you're being tasked with, I need to get this data out. Using a tool like this, it's kind of drag and drop. Oh, I know I need some of this, I need some of that, I need that data, and we can build the queries for you and generate the reports. It's going a little quicker than I thought. Okay. So Toad World. This is your one-stop resource for education, expertise, and collaboration. If you have never been there, you need to go out there and visit. It's free. All of us like free stuff. So toadworld.com. It's a free online community. You'll find exclusive freeware downloads, direct access to experts like Stephen Feuerstein, Bert Scalzo, Guy Harrison. Those names may mean something to you, they may not, but they are Oracle experts, recognized Oracle experts, and they're all Quest employees. And they drive a lot of the tools and ideas behind our tools to help make them better. But they're all easily accessible. You can email them, you can do whatever you need to do. There's white papers and podcasts, and there's tips and tricks videos, and there's news, early adopter programs, and betas. Right now we're running a beta on Toad for Data Analyst. We're looking for feedback. We're always, always, always interested in getting feedback from you, the user community. Everything that we do is based on your input. So the idea, the genesis of Toad for Data Analyst is there's a lot of Toad products out there. It's a big family. But we had the data analyst folks coming back to us and saying, I don't need all this stuff. I need a tool to look at data and generate reports. All that feedback came from you folks in the community. So what we did is we took that and we built Toad for Data Analyst. And it's a lighter weight tool, easy to use to get the data out and do all the reporting. So the presentation part's over. I do have the software up and running. I'll show you that in just a second. If you have questions, feel free to email me. I'll leave this up for a minute. You can jot it down. My name is Mark Kurtz, mark.kurtz@quest.com. We highly, highly encourage you to visit us on Toad World. See us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have videos on YouTube. You go out and search for Toad. We have videos, how-to videos out there. Just a ton of information out there. It's all for you. It's all free. We want you to be successful, using all these resources. Let me get out of here real quick.
You should be able to see the questions there, Mark, on the side. Maybe go through and answer.
Okay. Well, that's a kind of a small window here. Let's see. Okay, trying to expand that window here. Will I be able to get a copy of the slide deck? Yes, you will. And you can email me. Hopefully you have you copy down my email address. Again, it's mark.kurtz@quest.com. I can send that to you. A couple of people asked me for the PowerPoint. What is the difference between DBMS and RDBMS? Marketing. DBMS is Database Management System. RDBMS is Relational Database Management System. They're interchangeable. It all depends on who you talk to. I'm old school traditional. It's RDBMS. That's the only big deal or differences. Okay, here's a question. What is the name of the diagram in MS Access? This would be relationship diagram. I'm not sure I understand the question. What is the name of the diagram? It's just a ER diagram or a database diagram. ER diagram is probably what you're after. An ER diagram will show you the relationships between these guys. What is elegant SQL? Good question. Elegant SQL is simplistic but powerful in that you can get carried away writing a SQL statement, and you can add a lot of joins and where clauses, and you can grab stuff from all over the place, and it just becomes kind of unwieldy. So the database then has to do a lot of extra work that may or may not be necessary to actually get the results back. So if you can trim down your SQL, make sure that you're using, say you're using a distinct, you're going after sales in Minnesota. Well, you can put that in and make your query, rather than saying sales in North America when you really only want Minnesota, you can write the query, make it more elegant by saying, show me the sales, select all the sales from Minnesota. And it's just a matter of streamlining it, making it more purpose-driven. Sometimes it has to be broad-based queries. Not always. You can usually trim it down, make sure you use proper where clauses, those types of things. Is there a magic button that says, oh, this is going to be elegant? Not necessarily, but if you use something like Toad for Data Analyst, we can help you write that query because you're focusing on, okay, I'm looking for data from a specific data set, and we can help you write more elegant queries. So that was a good question. Thanks. This will be great. Slide 9, ETL is a new acronym. Does ETL process a part of DB2 Oracle vendor supply module or needs to be coded by a DBA programmer? Excellent question. ETL is a process, okay? Extract, transform, and load. It's not specific to Oracle, not specific to DB2, Microsoft, anything like that. It is a business type process. Now there are products out there, ETL products, that you can buy that'll do some of this for you. I'm not sure how elegant they are. Usually what happens is you'll have a team of developers that write the code and say, okay, every day at 11 o'clock, because the ETL process is usually a batch job that runs overnight or during the night. So maybe every day at 11 o'clock, we start extracting the data from these sources. Maybe the data is sent to you by, automatically by your vendor or something like that. Once you have all these data sources defined, you can start extracting that. And you pull it into that middle layer, and then you start transforming that data. Because you might get a lot of data from a vendor, but for your particular process, you only need a subset of that data. That can be extracted out of there, transformed, and then loaded into the database. So it's not, again, nothing specific for a database. It's more a business process. Okay, next question. Can you please explain the difference between an iSeries physical file created through DDS and a table created through SQL? No, I can't. That would be something we'd have to take offline because that would be, might be a bigger discussion in this. So if you want, who has that? Dengler? Email me that and we can talk about that some more. Okay. Are decision support systems based on OLAP? Ooh, good question. Yes, no, maybe. There's a lot of decision support systems out there. So it's all a matter, I mean, the decision support system can be something as simple as using Toad for Data Analyst to connect to your data warehouse and pull that information out. Again, there's vendors out there that have, and you may be using, like, say you're using Oracle Apps or PeopleSoft or something, and you get the data in. Well, they have reporting tools, and they can be decision support systems. It's more a matter of getting access to the data and pulling the data out. Good question. Audio problems. No, I'm not having. I was supposed to get an ebook upon which, that's not me. Ben, did you get that one?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Okay. Does Toad work with AS400 also? Yes, because we don't really care what the hardware platform is. we're just interested in the database. So if you're running DB2 on an AS400, fine. If you can connect to it, we can connect to it. And we're pretty agnostic when it comes to the hardware. We really don't care. Okay, this tool looks good, but how are all these features synchronized? Not sure what that means by all the features being synchronized. They are built into the tool. So if I am doing, say I'm doing a query builder, so I look at a table, I pull that into the query builder, and it pulls in other tables, and then I start writing a query based on that. I mean, I guess that's all synchronized. So I started looking at a table, pulled it in, and wrote a query. I execute the query, get the results, and then I send the results to a report writer or to Excel. It's all just natural through the tool. It's just a natural use of the tool. And so hopefully that answered. The tool keeps track of what it's doing. And that goes to, with the scheduling, the automation piece is when I build this job stream, and I get to where I have a query and I'm running it and generating output, I can automate that part of it. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. In reference to business analyst responsibilities, do BAs need to be data analysts? Don't get hung up on the name of or your job title. So let's say Emily asked this one. It doesn't matter. It's whatever your company. Some companies call you business analyst. Some call them data analysts. Some call them system analysts. Some call them developers. Some call them, whatever. It's more what is your job function, not so much what is the name. So the title of this could have been Relational Databases for the Data Analysts. If you are working on data, you're analyzing and reporting on it, you are an analyst of some sort. So don't get too stuck on the job title. What type of security is built in the Toad product, e.g. only payroll manager can see monthly payroll report? Security is predicated by the database itself. Right? It's different than, say, like your payroll. If you're using, I don't know, I'll stick with Oracle apps, and you're doing payroll processing. There's a certain set of restrictions inside that application and features where the manager can only see the payroll reports, everybody else can only input it, blah, 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 blah. That is application specific. Our tool is database specific. So we're not going to necessarily recognize the fact that the payroll manager can only see monthly payroll reports. Excuse me. What we're looking at is what security is in place at the database level on the tables to prevent, and this goes back to the DBAs, they need to make sure security is in place that only limit access to certain objects and certain tables. There's nothing inside of Toad. We just respect whatever database security is in place. Okay. The connections to the variety of source data, is it dependent on my own access? Yes, it is. Whatever you have access to today is what we can access. The tool will use the connection strings that you identified or declared on your PC. If you're connecting to Oracle, DB2, Sybase, whatever, you just use those connection strings. You can use ODBC. I talked to a lot of like Teradata customers and Netezza customers. There aren't really native tools for that, connection tools. You have to use ODBC, which is Open Database Connectivity Strings. But as long as you get that set up, we can use those. We'll recognize them. So it's whatever access you have from your machine. Let's see. Does Toad work on the date warehouse? Do you need the ETL to do the ETL process first to use Toad, or does it work directly on data sources? Both. Toad is not an ETL tool. We will not do the extract, transform, and load piece of it. It's a whole different separate process. But we can look at the source data, and we can look at the data warehouse data. To us, it's just data. It's just a database, an RDBMS out there. We don't really care. If you can access the source, fine. If you can't because of restrictions and all that kind of stuff placed on it by your company, you won't be able to get to it. You may only be able to get to the data warehouse. It all goes on the security of the company and has really nothing to do with Toad. We're just there to allow you to get in and see the data wherever it is and whatever you can look at. Okay, being a business analyst, what can be used / created to fulfill audit requirements? That's a pretty big question. And what do you mean by audit requirements? So if you want to send an email to me, again, mark.kurtz@quest.com, and ask me that, give me more details. Auditing can be a lot of different things. There's database auditing that can be turned on, a lot of different stuff. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. We need to have a conversation about that. Has this tool been used for data migration and data cleanup? Again, no, it's not an ETL type of tool. We're not going to do the migration. We're a reporting tool to once the data has been moved, or you want to look at it from the source, but we're not going to do the migration and cleanup for you. Examples, please, for non-SQL experts. Okay. You don't have to be an expert, and this came from Kent Estes. You don't have to be a SQL expert to use this tool. And that's the beauty of it, is all you need to be able to do is connect to a database and view the tables. In the business analyst, data analyst world, that's usually what you have. Oh, I know these tables, I need to use these tables. Well, you can bring the toolkit up, look at those tables, and click on a field and say, okay, we'll start building a query for you. So you see the tables, you put them in the query builder. Okay, I need some data from this column, and this column, and we build the SQL for you. And we try and create elegant SQL, along the way to do that. But you don't really have to know how to write SQL, you just need to know how to drive a mouse. What is the cost of the tool? What if I already have Toad? I do not know what the cost of the tool is. I am not the sales guy. And what if I already have Toad? You need to contact your sales rep for that. I don't know how they license it, price it, any of that kind of stuff. I'm just a techie. At organizational level, can we use Toad as a freeware, or do we need to obtain a license? You need to contact your sales rep. There is a freeware version of our products, but they're limited. I think you can only bring back like 100 records and only see 20 tables or something like that. The licensing, this much I do know, the licensing for the tool is at the seat-based level. So if you are going to be a user, you need to have a copy of it installed on your PC. Now, you could buy it for like the whole company and manage it, that way, but everybody would still need their own copy on their desktop. Is downloading Toad for Data Analyst beta free? Yes, it is. So jump on that, hop out there. We love beta testers. We love your feedback. It's all free stuff. What capability is there to extract data from one DBMS, format it, and insert it into a different DBMS using an automated process that runs on a scheduled basis? Again, we're not really the extract and load piece, but you could pull the data out, put it into a spreadsheet, and then use another process to load that spreadsheet in. That would be doable. Yeah, but again, that's kind of outside of what we're doing with the tool. Okay, I get asked most times what issues I find with large-scale data modeling. I get asked most times what issues I find with large-scale data modeling. I'm not sure. Data modeling is a different subject. I'm not sure where you want to go with that one. And this came from Chad. I can't. Chedzo. Sorry, I'm going to ruin that name. Send me an email and we can talk about the data modeling, get more details for you. What are advantages of using an OODB versus RDBMS? I don't know if there is an advantage. You're talking more probably along a design phase now. Object-oriented is building a model to support a business process, but the data still resides in the RDBMS. So the OODB is the process, okay? What platform are you running the OODB on? Oh, running on Oracle. Okay, it's an RDBMS, and we can get to the data from there. Let's see what else we have here. Can we automate this process? DBA. Yeah, depending upon what process. But you can automate all the query building process, the reporting process, all of that kind of stuff. Could you compare your product to options like Sybase InfoMaker? Not really. I'm not familiar with InfoMaker. I apologize. I would have to look into that, but it's something I can do if you want to send me an email. And we may have some marketing papers on it as well. I wish I did know more about it so I could answer that. There can be DBMSs which are non-relational, such as hierarchical DBMSs, correct? Correct. The new buzzword in the world is cloud. I love the Microsoft commercial where the lady's sitting for family photos and they go to the cloud. Cloud databases are or they call them NoSQL databases. And they're just collections of data. Well, we can work with those. And we can work with hierarchical databases, all that information. The focus of this was, a relational database system like Oracle or DB2, whatever. But there are a lot of database structures out there, and we can work with all of those too. Okay, another question about RDBMS versus OODB. It's the advantages of using relational over OODB. Again, OODB is more process-oriented. You have a particular job you're trying to manage, but the data is still going to be stored somewhere. Okay, now we're getting into actual query writing. I'm not going to answer that here, but what's the difference between writing a SQL statement with inner join, blah, blah, blah. We can take that offline. So we got that. Okay, is there a big difference in performance using inner join versus table 1, table 2, or table 1? Inner joins are going to usually be better, more elegant than versus table 1, table 2. But again, you'll have to play with those, and we can take that offline as well. What other formats are there in Toad for data analysts besides Excel and CSV? You can generate a report. You can create an HTML report, a PDF report, rich text files. I think there might be a couple others out there. So the default is Excel, and the key, if you're going to use this, is when you run a query and you get the result in Data Grid, do a right mouse click, and you'll see more reporting options out there. In terms of reporting, automation / delivery, what is the best way to batch all of the work and have your reports built off hours. I suspect you can set up a workflow scheduler to do so, but requires software to be running. Any other ideas? Couple things you could do for your off-hour reporting is if you're using Toad for Data Analysts, we can generate the report process. We can automate it, but it doesn't require Toad being up and running. We're using the Windows scheduler, so you need to make sure that your PC is turned on in the scheduling jobs out there. The other option is to generate the whole process, and you could set up a cron job if you're going to run it on a Unix box. So that would be an option that you could have. What type of testing tools do you use, if any? Mercury, Relational. Testing tools, that's a big question. If you're doing stress testing, based on your question, Mercury, Relational, we have a product called Benchmark Factory where we can do the testing of the database and the queries. And that's downloadable from our website as well. Okay, been a lot of questions. Let's see. Where can we get your email address? I've given it out a few times, so here it goes again. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, Kurtz, K-U-R-T-Z, @quest.com. Thanks.
So we're going to be running here a little short, or well, we've got a few more minutes left. I just sort of giving you a warning here. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left.
Okay. Are you going to host any more webinars that go in slightly more depth? I would love to go more deeper into some of this stuff. I would love to do this. Can you show us the tool? I would love to, but we're running out of time. For those of you that want to see the tool and want more detail, contact your sales rep, and we can set up web demos. They're kind of personal for you. If you go to Toad World, there's some videos and stuff out there as well. Are date-time comparisons handled between databases platform natively, or is that up to analysts to code? Date-time comparisons get a little tricky, but there's some features inside the tool that we can help with. You still have to do something, but we can help with the date time a little bit. What is the advantage of Toad for analysts over using, say, business objects in data? Can the join data sources, in fact, be a data warehouse? The advantage of Toad for data analysts over the native tools is you get to the raw data. And yes, we can join cross-database platforms. You're not stuck just using business objects to look at the data. You have a bit more free form or flexibility with our toolkit. What is the difference between Toad and Excel ODBC? Toad is native connectivity, and we can read an Excel spreadsheet right into Toad. You just have to save it as a range table, and then we can read it. I don't know if that answered your question, Phil.
Okay, Mark, let's just take one more question and then we'll tie this thing up. And for those questions that didn't get answered, the presentation will be available later, but I'll give you some more details here in a moment.
Okay. Yeah, so some of you, I'm previewing some of these questions, and some are starting to get a bit more technical. So let me... Does Toad make a library of canned public reports available? Sort of. But we need to talk about that offline. So here's probably the best and last question. Is there a guide that you can direct me to for remapping a polished report to a different source? Example, changing the field list, both our Excel sources, name and columns are different. Yeah, we can talk about that. You have Excel, you can pull it in and change the name of the field on the fly, kind of thing.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark, for a very informative presentation. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's Modern Analyst webinar. I wanted to point out the webinar along with slides will be archived at ModernAnalyst.com within a few days. So This concludes this event, and we hope you have a great day.